everyone. Welcome back to Resilient and Rowdy podcast. This is your host, Jess, and today my special guest is Emily Loves Business. Hi, welcome, Emily.
I'm excited to be here. I can't wait. Resilient and rowdy are my two favorite words.
Yeah, let's go. I had the pleasure of meeting Emily a few weeks ago at SHOT Show in Vegas, and we just hit it off, had great conversation, and I was really drawn to her energy. She's very driven and outgoing and personable and really pretty. So I was like, oh my gosh, let's collab. Today in this episode, I just wanted to get into who Emily is and what her background is and just share that general knowledge that she has and pick her brain. So, Emily, your tagline is Emily Loves Business, and you have your own endeavors as an entrepreneur. So, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into entrepreneurship and the business field.
Yeah, so I have a business degree. So my degree is in business management and marketing. So I've always been around business. My mom is an immigrant. She moved here from another country. She's brilliant, knows 5 languages fluently, and she just worked her ass off her whole life. And then my dad is Air Force. He's a retired pilot. And even though he had that stable pilot, that airline job, he also owned multiple businesses on the side. So I've been around it my whole entire life. All three of my older brothers are all entrepreneurs as well. It's just in my DNA. So I studied business in college. And from the time I was 8 years old, when people would ask me when I was little, what do you want to be when you grow up? I always said I want to own a business. And I never knew what I wanted to do until I got older. But it turned out that when I was in college, and that was, I'm going to age myself here, but when I graduated college in 2013, social media really was like in the baby phase.
Yeah.
Ad campaigns and things like that weren't huge. So I jumped right into it. I became a virtual assistant for a PR company, and they immediately wanted me to start building followings for authors around the country. So I dove right into it. And literally by the time I graduated college, I just made my own business. I knew I didn't want to work 9 to 5 for somebody else. I had a baby when I was in college at the same time. So it's just been literally in my DNA. And then fast forward to 2017, I decided to start my own marketing company because I had been doing freelancing and contract work and working for myself for already a few years. So I decided, let me just go ahead and scale this thing, grab other content creators, grab other influencers, and let's all work under one umbrella. So instead of everybody hustling to find their clients and find work doing what they love, I said, let's just come under one roof. Let's all do it together and let's just take over content.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. I'm glad that you had so many people in your family to help influence you and guide you. I'm sure, like, even in passing, like, you might not even be like paying attention, but in the other room, they could be negotiating with other people or trying to draw out contracts or agreements. And
Mhm.
it's in that atmosphere, that hustle culture, getting yourself out there and being brave. So that's really cool. And I feel like that really shows. And you're not aging yourself, but you did mention that at 2013 you got into all this, and that,
Mhm.
like you said, that was prime time baby Instagram. Remember all those cute little filters and stuff,
Oh
just
my
like,
God, I look back and I'm like, what was I doing? Or you remember when like Facebook, you had to be in college? So that
mhm,
was like that was what I grew up with. You had to be in college to
mhm,
have Facebook. And
mhm.
even now, obviously, it's Facebook has just taken over the entire world. It's out of control, but that's another topic.
Yeah.
But when I was like 9 years old, my mom, she owned antique stores, and I remember her teaching me how to sell. And I think to this day, sales is my biggest strength. I love sales. I can sell anything to anybody. I just need to be handed a tool. And when I was 9, my mom would say, when I was checking people out at her antique store, she'd be like, okay, you see how when the woman left, she'd be like, see how she bought this? What if we upsold her and told her what would go with this? And I remember my little brain was like, oh, cool. I could have made more money. And so my mom would give me at 9 free reign to the cash register. And I loved writing the receipts and I loved upselling women. And it was so fun for me. So I really accredit a lot of it to both of my parents' drive and hustle and just instilling it from the time I was little.
That's awesome. That's also so smart because yes, you're making a sale, but also I feel like in turn you're also helping the customer. Like that way they don't have to go out and to another store and look for something that
Yeah.
complements the piece that they're buying. This could be, applicable to other things. We're all here in-house, like you're buying this or we're
Yeah.
doing this, and here's this other thing that could really complement it and go well with it. Like, why not? I think it's helpful for both parties. That's what I really like to see. But
Hmm.
yeah, like you were able to see the infancy of social media and marketing. You struck gold with the timing of all of it. So you put
Yeah.
yourself in there and you collaborated this team to all push this mission. So
Yeah.
what's that like managing all of those people and building them up to be the type of leaders that can execute the same type of styles and
Mhm.
negotiation and stuff like that, like how you do?
Yeah, in my very first company, it was a female-owned, female-only business. So I started that, and that was probably about 2013, fresh out of college as well. And my daughter was, I think, 8 months old at that time. She was a baby. And I started my first company then, and I had recruited over 100 people and grew my team to 100 employees, 100 women that worked with me. That was very different because it was only women, and that was managing a ton of emotion, a ton of, oh my goodness, it was a lot. And so eventually, when I moved out of that and I started my marketing company, working with creatives is a totally different ball game. It's different than the 100 women that worked for me before. Creatives have a very, they want to work in a specific environment. They want to be surrounded by other creatives. Their office needs to have a certain, like literally,
Vibe.
yeah, when I was in my office yesterday and I was visiting them, they keep the lights off. And they know when Emily walks in, I like the lights, open the window. It's so simple. And
Yeah.
I said, boys, we're turning the lights on. I walked into the guys who were doing videos and stuff, and I flipped the lights on, and they're like, we want them off. But because I know when they edit, they like the lights off. So we joke about it now, but for their work environment, I know
Yeah.
that I have to do with creative work, it can be never ending. And I know that every now and then, usually like once a month, I'll do a stress check with them. And they know I'll come and sit at their desk, each of them individually, and say, scale of 1 to 10, where are you at right now? And I know every single one of my employees, what number is too high for them. For example, my creative director, he's the
Mhm.
most laid back guy. If he gets to a 4, that would be an 8 for me. So he can't go past a 4. He's just so laid back. I know for another guy who handles a lot, an 8 is really bad for him. A 4 is nothing. He's chilling. So you just have to know the people that you're leading, and you have to actually take the time. And I've also worked every single position in my company, every single one. So I think that gives me a huge benefit because I know what they can handle. I know what's too much. I know what's too many clients for them. So I really keep a very good tabs on all of them. And I make sure that I pour into them constantly. Like they know that I give a shit about their lives. If one of them's having a baby, I'll go to the hospital. I'll give him the gifts. I'll throw the baby shower. I want to be there for you having your baby. That matters to me because most leaders don't care. You sit in that seat, you make me money, and they don't care to develop them as people. But I think leadership development pours into not just your work environment, but your house, like your home, your personal life, the way you date, the way you get married. I very much am a part of all of my employees' lives. And I'm constantly like, okay, Tyler, my creative director, you're single right now. Here's what we're doing. Here's how you're talking to that girl. You have a crush on that girl in the hallway over there. What are you going to say to her? I'm like, you are so damn lucky you have me because I'm going to help you speak to that girl across the hallway. And it just pours into every area of their lives. You know what I mean?
That's really awesome. I'm really glad that you're using your perspective, especially from someone who worked like the ground up in this field, in the company. And that way you're able to keep that personable kind of outlook
Yeah.
personally and professionally. That's a major thing that's not really present a lot with a lot of corporations, companies, businesses, people, friendships, like whatever connection, whatever human connection. So when you have that disconnect, of course, your employees might treat their job just like a job and only give a certain percentage. But I can personally say that when you have a leader and a boss like you, when you fully invest in me personally, you value me as a person,
Mhm.
I will go above and beyond when applicable, when I'm able to, because I see that investment. We're investing
Yeah.
in each other. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's where there's a lot of gray area of leaders being like, oh, why aren't my employees like getting it, or why is production levels down, etc.
Yeah.
It's the way that you treat people. I feel like that's why a lot of companies will jokingly say, oh, we're a family here, and it's like the most toxic environment
Oh my
ever,
gosh, I know.
when really it's exactly how you just described it. Like you care about their work
Their
environment, their
well-being, their personal
experiences,
life.
and the personal lives.
Yeah.
I've actually been able to meet a couple leaders like you who have thrown baby showers for their employees, who will send flowers at the hospital or
Yeah.
genuinely just check in. So I feel like you have this really good personable leadership tactic. And I'd
Yeah.
like to say that it really pays off for you because who wouldn't
Yeah.
love that feeling, especially in a work environment? You're not just being worked like a dog. People
No.
care about you. That's awesome.
Yeah, I have a very low turnover rate in companies that have a turnover rate. I firmly believe it's a leadership problem. It's not an employee problem, it's a leadership problem. And
Yeah.
there's a reason why everybody that works for me has worked for me for years, almost since the ground up, because I've so invested in them. One of the things I do is once a year, I take them on an all inclusive vacation and I let them pick the country and I let them pick where we're going. So I give them 3 months, I give them goals. So part of my leadership development, I do all of the sales for the company, but I want to develop leaders, right? That's my mission. So I know that most of them don't like sales. Most people don't like sales the way I love them. I
Mhm.
freaking get off on them. They're amazing. But most people don't like it. So I want to develop that skill in them because I think that even if you don't do sales for a company, even if it's a videographer that works for me, for example, he might never do sales for a company, but he might one day have to learn to sell himself. If that's if he goes
Mm.
somewhere else, that's such a solid skill you have to have. If you're negotiating buying a home, a car, you have to know how to work with other people and be relatable and personable. So I give
Mhm.
them 3 months and I teach them, here's how I do my sales. You have to work on this goal and sell X amount of services in 3 months. And then you've earned that vacation. Every single year, they've earned that vacation. And they also get paid a commission on top of their salaries. They're paid very well. That's another thing. People pay so shitty. I don't
Yes.
pay shitty. They get 20% raises every single year. People will give like a dollar. It's bullshit. I'm like, no, people don't stick around for that. I know that no doubt. And my employees know this. Every single one of them, if you ask them, they could never in a million years go to another company that does what we do and get paid and get treated the way that they get treated. They drive the Tesla, they get paid very well, they work on their sales goal, they go on vacations, they can bring their significant other on a vacation. I just make sure that I dive into them on all aspects, all areas of their lives, and that they know I give a shit. And aside from my employees, all of my clients know that I give a shit. I want everybody in my life. That's one of my life goals. I want everyone that talks to me to know that I give a shit. I love people. I care. Even if we never work together, I want you to know that whatever you say, if it's my barista, it's important to me. And that's a huge goal of mine.
That's awesome. I think that's a really wonderful and almost like a rare way to carry yourself. A lot of people are very tit for tat, but I think when you invest not only in yourself, but in your community and in your interactions, like you said, like stuff like that carries, that energy carries. And it's very, what's the word?
Infectious almost.
Yes, it's infectious.
Yeah,
Yeah, because you don't know what people are dealing with internally. And
right.
so when you make someone feel good, feel valued, like it puts a pep in their step. Their day is a little brighter and they can probably get more done. They feel a little better about themselves. So
Yeah.
that good energy invests itself in multiple ways. So I'm really glad that you carry yourself that way. That's a really wonderful and beautiful way. That's just so appreciated. Like everyone can be very cold or impersonable. And I know we all get caught up in our lives, but when you get
Yeah.
down to the nitty gritty, it's just like,
Yeah.
why not bring a little joy into your world?
Same thing with my parenting. It's the exact same thing. People
Oh,
need to
yeah.
like I tell my kids all the time, this whole town should know our family. They should know our name. They should know that we conduct ourselves differently than the rest of the world conducts themselves. Like we hold ourselves to a higher standard and that your worth, your value, you know what you bring to the table. You're a damn good friend and you're good to your teachers. You teach because it's wild to me the stories that my kids tell. Like my daughter's in middle school now, and she'll come in and say her classmate spit on the teacher today. I'm like, in middle school, what is happening? Like, where the fuck is the parenting and all? Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
It's a whole epidemic. It's crazy. So I'm telling my kids all the time, you make sure the second you walk out of this house, people know Avery. They know my daughter. They know
Mhm.
Landon and they know that family. They know their mom. They know the way that we treat people in this whole damn town. And you have to take that with you the rest of your life. Even I don't like people that go to their shitty job and they sit there and complain about it and they hate their boss and they hate their coworkers and their attitude is shit. And I've worked plenty of jobs that were total shit too. But it's still your role and responsibility as an individual to carry yourself differently than everybody else. But I have been told so many times that I have unreal standards and my expectations, especially when it comes to dating. Like, God forbid I ask for the bare minimum. So that's
Oh,
tough.
girl. Yeah, preach. But just like positive energy is contagious, so is negative energy. But also,
Mhm.
I don't, because that kind of struck a chord with me. I've definitely been at some jobs where it's just like, man, you guys are miserable and y'all just want to bring everyone down. And no wonder we have such poor ratings because you come in here and you don't even give people the time of day. Why are
Mhm.
you even working with people then? Go get a desk job, do some data entry or something.
Yeah, don't just sit there, do something about it.
But like you said, and you're very hands-on with personal and professional. So I love that you brought up even parenting your kids, like
Mhm.
also navigating this entrepreneurial spirit and industry on top of being a single mother. Can you tell me what that's like how you handle both?
Oh my God. It is the best thing I've ever done in my life is to parent alongside being a business owner. My kids are so ingrained in my company. During COVID, I had to homeschool, virtual school them in my office with all of my employees. And they would roll over to one of my web developers and be like, "Can you help me with this math question?" Like when they're younger. And my team, they love them. They bring them gifts. Like they're just,
Mhm.
I think my kids think that they're also in charge, but they're the sweetest things ever. They know their roles. I model the behavior that I want to see in them. But my kids also, I don't believe in just sugarcoating things. I am so raw and real, and it's amazing what kids can understand. One time I had to let an employee go years ago that I really liked on a personal level. And I'm very careful about when I let employees go, but I had to let her go, and my son and my daughter were there when I was at home, still processing through, is this the right choice? And I sat on that decision. And I remember because I love people so much, I cried about it. I really liked this girl. And I was sitting on the carpet in my floor in my hallway, and I was crying about having to sit in front of someone and take their job, take their livelihood from them. I fucking hate doing that. And my kids sat there and they hugged me while I cried through it. But I use that where they don't just see all the positives, they don't just see the money, they don't just see the trips, they don't just see the Teslas, but they also see the time when their mom sits on the carpet and she cries because she has to fire somebody and she takes that decision seriously. So my kids are very much ingrained in all of it, but I also shield and protect them. That's the other thing, because some people can chalk it up till they share all the struggles and they vent to their kids almost. I never vent to my kids ever. I tell them what they need to know, and I tell them how I'm going to handle situations, and I don't sugarcoat it. I'm honest with them. But and also now they're both super entrepreneurial, and my daughter has multiple monetized YouTube channels, and I have a lot of rules around that, but she loves it and she grew up with it. And they make bracelets and they go to school and they'll be like, "I made $200 today." My fourth grader. And I'm like, "That's sick."
Wow.
So they're used to it. Just like I grew up with it, they are now too.
That's awesome. Look at that, little go-getters. I'm really glad that you brought up the boundaries thing. That's huge. It's great that you're being honest in your day-to-day life, especially like in parenting and showing them because I feel like sometimes when you cut corners or everything's very like cookie cutter, they're
Mhm.
missing out on lessons, and that can also apply to even your friends, your
Yeah,
employees, as well as your daughters. So it's really
yeah.
good that you're giving them that perspective as well, that there are going to be difficult moments where you're going to have a difficult conversation, but it
Mhm.
has to be done. I feel like, unfortunately, I do see that a lot with the youth. I don't want to sound like a grandma saying it, but like with the kids, and they don't want to talk on the phone. Even my own
No,
friends, like I'm about to turn 30 and I still have some friends who need their parents to call to make a
yeah.
doctor's appointment. And I'm just, I get
Good
it.
lord.
I get it.
I don't.
I really don't. I'm just trying to sympathize, but I'm just like,
Yeah,
you're gonna hold yourself back if you don't have the courage to just make a quick little phone call.
yeah,
And that's what you were showing your kids with that specific situation of having to let
yeah,
someone go and really sit and process it because that is someone's livelihood and it does matter to you. It means a lot to you. And I'm sure that it also took a lot for you to even get to that point. And they probably saw that as well, how many
yeah,
chances you gave them. So it's a very
yeah.
personable business. And I'm glad that you're incorporating that into your parenting and your professional life. I think that's obviously why you're very successful in what you do.
Yeah, I also, if I let an employee go, with that person specifically, I also checked in with her. I offered to write a recommendation, still an honest one. I also checked in with her like 3 months to make sure that she was good and say,
Okay.
hey, what employer do you know fires you? And then 3 months later is, are you good? Because she was struggling a lot mentally.
Mm.
And I just felt responsible, and I don't ever want to be responsible. And I'm really ultimately not responsible for another adult's life, but I did check in with her and make sure that she was good. But my kids saw it from the very time I interviewed her. And I asked them specific questions. If my kids during COVID, they had to listen, if they're sitting in my private office and I'm interviewing someone, I will ask my kids, this is my way of training them in business. What did you guys like about the girl that I just interviewed? How do
Mm.
you think she answered that question? And Landon, my son, will say, I thought she did a really good job when she said this, but I think she could have said that differently. And I think she'd make a good fit for this position. Why do you think she'd be a good fit for that
Mhm.
position? What makes her a good employee? And what do you think I could have asked any questions differently in that interview? And at that time, he was probably like 6 years old or something, or five, really, and 4 years ago. But I make sure that every single thing is like a teaching opportunity. But I do also realize that I need to slow my roll with that, because they do tell me like, okay, just let us, like, we don't want to learn all the time. I'm like, all right, I get that too.
Okay, yeah, let the kids be kids,
Yeah,
but
I do.
in passing, you are doing a lot more than most people parenting-wise,
Yeah. It's brutal. Being a
it
single mom owning multiple companies it's tough, but the stats on like single moms making it are so bad. But within the first week that I was married for 12 years. Within the first week I walked out of it, I started two other companies in a week. And I said, no, I left with $0 to my name. I gave him absolutely everything and said, I've built this before, I can build it again. And so I tripled my income instantly in the first week, because I just was determined to do it. I'm not going to be a part of that stat. And I had to make the most of it. And then I went on a mission to help other single moms that, how are you setting yourself up for success here too? It's takes a hell of a lot to walk away from something, or for someone to walk away from you. It leaves you in the worst, lowest place of your entire life. But what you do with it, if I don't talk to anybody about my struggles, then what was the point of it all? Then it's useless. It's got to help somebody, even if it helps one person. You have a responsibility to open up your mouth about it. But I think people carry a lot of shame, and people don't like to talk about the struggles or the failed businesses or the bad relationships. People don't generally like to talk about that. I don't know why they're scared to, but someone's got to benefit from it.
exactly, and that's what I love about having my own podcast is I found a lot of really wonderful lessons in a lot of difficult situations. And currently in this day and age, a lot of people don't read, and there's a lot of great knowledge in books. And so if you lead a horse to water, you can't force it to drink. All right, bet I got you. You like to listen to podcasts. I love to yap.
Mhm.
So here we are having these discussions, and so that other people can relate or learn and spread that knowledge just so that other people don't have to struggle. I really resonate with how you said that you didn't want to be a part of that statistic. A lot of demographics can relate with it just looks very poor. It doesn't look
Yeah.
very exciting, enticing. Who wants to be a part of a very lowly
Yeah.
statistic, a very so I'm glad that you were able to pull yourself up out of that difficult
Mhm.
situation, but it definitely takes a lot of courage to not want to be that. Does that make sense? Because I feel like sometimes folks are like, "Oh, I went through this and I went through that. Don't
Yeah.
expect anything of me. Like
Right.
it's expected of me to hit rock bottom." But and sure, we'll all go through very dark times, but having the courage to get out of those difficult moments and times is the bravest thing you could ever do for yourself, and
Mhm.
especially if you have children. So I'm really glad that you were able to do that for yourself. That takes a lot of guts. So you're showing other women who have possibly been through the same things that they're capable, just as capable, if not more. And
Yeah.
so I really admire this drive in you. I do want to ask you, do you incorporate like positive affirmations, or do you have a set routine, or like what gets you going, moving, motivated to continue on such a difficult journey?
I don't do affirmations. They're not my vibe.
It's okay.
So people do like meditating and yoga, and I actually ironically just took up Pilates, and I was like, the fuck is this? It's, where's the loud like screaming music. It's quiet. Like, I'm trying to compete with somebody here. And I was also, everybody was like elderly too. But anyways,
Oh.
that's one of my things that I'm so good at. I think life is so run on systems. I have a system for every freaking thing that I do in my life. I have the same routine. I thrive in consistency and dependability. I'm very much the type of person, I do what I say I'm going to do, and it flows through all areas of my life. So I stay motivated, I stay driven, because quite frankly, I remember when I was younger, I had ADD pretty rough, and nowadays everybody's got something. So it's like, okay, whatever, we all have something. I remember people really making fun of me for it. And I remember, like, when I was in high school, for example, if I took a test, someone would come in and remove me from the class so I could go take a test in a different room. And my English class that I was put into, I was the only one who even was a native English speaking person. But I remember that feeling when I got removed to another room for somebody to help me. And I remember just wanting to fit in with everybody else in my class and hating that feeling that I was different than everybody, and people making fun of me and calling me stupid. To this day, that's one of my triggers. If somebody calls me dumb, which never happens anymore, but that's a real big trigger for me. But I remember the feeling that felt, and I never want to feel that again. So every day that pushes me. I remember what it feels like to have an overdrafted bank account. I will never fucking forget that feeling with babies going to the grocery store and having no clue if your card will work getting food. I never, ever want to feel that again. So that every single day, I remember the pain points. I remember the mental and financial abuse my marriage put me through, and I never want to feel it again. I never want to forget those sort of things. And I was the breadwinner in that marriage for 12 years. I just have to stay driven and never forget those feelings. If you get complacent and you start to make a bunch of money and you forget that, then you're in a dangerous place. Just like if I got complacent with the gym, if I got complacent with my diet, if I got complacent with spending time for myself, then you're in a dangerous place. I also really protect my calendar. I'm super, super intentional to this day about who I spend time with and what I do. I don't go on a date unless I really genuinely think that might be a good fit. I'm intentional about that. I don't date just to date. I don't start a business or coach another business owner or coach an entrepreneur who's just starting unless I really see the value and the worth in that. So I protect my calendar, and that, I think, helps me not get tapped out, and it helps me stay motivated because I only put things on my calendar in the first place that I'm passionate about, that I like, that it's something I enjoy. And I can do that right now. But when you're first starting out, you don't have the luxury of it. You take on clients, you take on jobs, you take on dating people that maybe aren't even the best fit for you, but you're like, okay, I want to date. I want to feel that feeling, and you do it anyways. But I don't waste my time with things that aren't beneficial to me as a person.
That's really important to apply that in a multitude of things, just like how you're doing now. So when you're very intentional and you have this drive, your worth, what you bring to the table, that can intimidate a lot of people. But if anything, it shouldn't really intimidate you. It should internally, you should be like, okay, I need to step it up, or I completely misread the situation and I need to follow suit. So
Yeah.
that's a great way to carry yourself. Would you say that you're pretty type A then?
Yes, very.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
always gets used against me. And I hate it. I'm super successful in the business world, but what I don't like about my fellow type A, I would say I'm more of an alpha female, which we got to come up with a better term for that, but it doesn't sound that cute to say you're an alpha. Like, that doesn't sound cute. Most men are very intimidated by that. And I get told that every day. And I'm like, that just sounds like an excuse for someone who's weak. It sounds like an excuse for someone who doesn't want to step up to the plate. Like, when it comes to dating, it's like, just step up to the plate. I'm not asking for too much, but yeah. But the thing is, for people who are like that, I want to be a well rounded person. I don't want to just be an alpha female. I don't want to be type A specifically. I want to be well rounded. And so my area is that type A personalities, we have a lot of weak points for sure. We drive ourselves into the ground. So I want to be the type of person that takes feedback really well, because we're also known for steamrolling and not taking feedback. I want to take that in all areas of my life. I'm super open to that. And then I also really just want to be learning from other people and be a well-rounded person. Like yesterday, when I got back from the airport in the middle of the night, one of my good guy friends FaceTimed me while I was in the airport, and he had pissed me off a few days prior. And I can't remember what he said, but he really pissed me off. And it takes a lot to piss me off, but I didn't talk to him for a couple of days because I was traveling. And then he FaceTimed me and he apologized to me for it. But then he also was like, but I'm going to give you some feedback. Like, you were a bit sensitive and you did X, Y, and Z. And I felt like I was being gaslit in this. But we were such good friends that it was like, okay, we heard each other out and it went really well. But I could have been like, okay, well, I'm not going to take the feedback because you did owe me an apology. You did say something shitty. But I also knew that I don't handle every situation perfectly too. So I accept the apology. But if I can do something different, then I want to be the type of person who can hear that at the same time.
It sounds like you're like very conscious and deliberate about continuously working and developing yourself into the best version of yourself.
Very.
And I think that's very admirable in all aspects, but especially as like a leader, sometimes in and also type A women, you can be a bit brash when it comes to receiving constructive criticism, but
Yeah.
that's what it is. When it is actual constructive criticism, it's civil, it's polite, it's mature, and it's met with good intentions. I think that's huge. A lot
Mhm.
of people just think that constructive criticism is their ability to just be as rude and blunt and forward as possible without taking into consideration that this isn't your opportunity to call out my flaws. It's your opportunity to see where I could develop myself a little better, carry myself a little better, or handle situations better. And
Yeah.
I'm glad that you're open to that because most people aren't and they call themselves leaders, but they're genuinely not. If you're not continuously trying to develop yourself into better, then maybe you're staying stagnant or maybe you're lacking in some self-awareness. So the fact
Yeah.
that you can take that in and have a mature conversation about it is wonderful. But sometimes, especially like women to women, it's we do get a little sensitive. We do expect a little more from each other.
To humble myself. That's the thing about me. I'm not afraid to humble myself. I'll eat shit. If I need to eat shit, I'm like, all right, I'll eat shit. A lot of times I eat shit when I don't even feel like I need to eat it. Like a lot of times where I'm like, yeah, no, you fucked that one up. That wasn't me.
Yes.
But I very much pray about a lot of stuff and I journal through things. So I really will, if I don't even say it out loud, I really will take every single situation and go back and be like, okay, yeah, maybe they verbally slapped me in the face. Maybe they're the one who wronged me. But what did I do with that? Did I let it take root in my heart? Did I let it affect my confidence? Did I let it affect my life? What did I do with that information? Because ultimately, when someone gives you feedback, their delivery might be so bad. Usually it is, but you have to sift through the noise and find out what was the root issue there. What was the heart behind all of that? Maybe they were barking at me, and girls, we tend to do that. We don't necessarily word it in the most beautiful package, but what did I do with that information afterwards? Then it's up to me. Then it's up to me if I learned from it. It's up to me how I responded to it. Maybe I responded really poorly back. I'm not afraid to be like, yeah, no, I could have handled that differently. Same thing with my employees. They know that. If I handle something incorrectly, I'm not afraid to say that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know that they definitely appreciate that honesty. I think your ability to self reflect is huge, just like how you just shared about your struggles as a single mom in those early stages or those really difficult points in your life. You reflect on that. That way, you don't get too comfortable. You give yourself grace when applicable. You take necessary breaks so that you don't exhaust yourself into the ground, but
Mhm.
also so that you don't ever have to be back in a place like that, where that be struggling to buy groceries, or maybe you could have handled a situation better in your personal or your professional life. I think that's really refreshing for me to hear because, especially just in the women's circle, it can be really hard to work with each other sometimes. Even if you meet someone
Mhm.
as politely and mature as possible, you can't for me, it's like I had to tell myself I can't control how someone reacts. I can only control myself and how I word things. And I know that I would want to be met the same way if I was acting a certain way. And so that's how I carry those conversations. But like I mentioned, it sounds like you're very self aware and you do that necessary reflection in order to just continuously develop into your best self. Sometimes I feel as if people believe that once you get to the top, like you're done, you're there. But there's still always growth to be developed no matter what stage in your life. So I'm really glad that you make an emphasis on working on that. I think that's huge.
Yeah, if somebody is reacting and if someone's expressing in a really angry way, that's usually the tip of the iceberg. That's the top of it. So I really try to like sift through all of that noise and find out what was the root here? What was the basis of that? Same thing when you're in a dating relationship. Women, we're made to be responders, and we don't bark at a man unless we're responding to something. There's a root there. And I think a lot of guys do a bad job of sifting through that noise and saying the delivery is really shitty. Maybe it is shitty, and maybe sometimes men or women, because men are really guilty of this too. You have to be able to sift through that in a work environment, personal environment, no matter what, and find out what is this person saying. If a client complains to me about something, maybe they were really mean in that to me. And that's happened to me hundreds of times, but I have to find out, how do I calm them down? How do I take the feedback? How do I say, it sounds like you're upset because of this? I could get really pissed off at the way they gave me that feedback. Yeah, you didn't need to scream at me for 10 minutes. That was so unnecessary, but there's a heart there. And as soon as people feel heard and understood and valued, their feedback is important, then you can have a healthy conversation. But nowadays, everyone's barking at each other. They're calling it feedback. It's no, you're just being an asshole on the internet. Like
Yeah.
we all have to do such a better job of not just inserting our opinions into absolutely everything and barking at people all the time.
Yeah. Also, with that, adding to that is like not engaging when someone's clearly just being a troll
Right.
or a jerk. That's you. Again,
Yep.
I can't control you. I don't want to. I wish I could, but I can't. That's your behavior. It doesn't reflect on me, but the way that I respond does. But I had to really learn that at a really early age. So I enlisted in the army right after high school, and that was one of the main lessons that I
Mhm.
learned once I got to my first duty station was in the least insensitive way possible. I just want to show that there was like a lot of drama going on within the platoon, outside of the platoon, in personal lives, and it came down to the point where I think, yeah, I was 18 still. I was still 18. And I have this 40 something year old platoon sergeant, and he's just, hey, I understand that things happen, but we're losing focus. And if there's something going on in your personal life, like, please take care of it. But once you walk through that door, I need y'all to be focused. I want y'all to show up as your best selves. If you can't get there, please let me know how I can help you, or
Mhm.
whatever resources I can share to get you there. But we're losing track. We need to be on this strict timeline. We need to put our emotions to the side.
Yeah.
And that was again 2013, and we've come a long way with the whole mental health discussions and environment and stuff, but I think that was really important because that way I walked into all of my jobs moving forward after that was, okay, what I have going on at home is going on at home. I'm going to
Yep.
put on a brave face. I'm going to be professional. I'm not going to let it seep through. I'm not going to be rude to a customer or to my coworkers just because I have something going on at home. I know that they'll understand, but for my standard, like how you mentioned as well, it's like you hold yourself to that standard, and there's certain leaders that I always think about when it comes to showing up as my best self, and I want to, elude that same energy. So I'm going to put my stuff to the side, show up as best as possible, get it done, and then I'm going to go home and take care of myself. So learning that balance is huge. So again, whether that be personally or professionally. And I'm glad that you really incorporate that as well into your business, because that just leads to professional efficiency while also developing that person on a deeper level. And so there's also, you like building that bond. They trust you, they value what you have to say. And like you mentioned, you have a very low turnover rate. So they're staying with you. So
Mhm.
you're really investing in so many ways, and it's clearly paying off. I love that.
No matter what I'm going through, and I've been through the worst, most darkest, horrific times of my life. And the second I walk through my door, nobody knows. There have been plenty of times I've bawled my eyes out in the car or been on a floor crying in a ball. And the second I go to work, that's it. I turn it off. My parents instilled that in me. The only flip side to that, though, is for me, when I ended up going through the divorce process, people were shocked by it because I really had that ability to turn it off. And I was like, I've actually been suffering for a decade now, but nobody knew that. So that's the other side of me that I really have been, the older I get now at 32 years old, I'm really working on sharing those things and not being so driven that I don't allow myself to process, that I don't share things with like people that are trusted. Now, not the internet, but my parents were floored when I told them this. They had no clue. And I've been so unhappy for a decade and they had no idea. As much as it is a beautiful thing and everybody needs to get better about not learning to carry their emotions into every area of their life and not letting it bleed everywhere, you also do have to find a time and a place that's healthy and constructive and with trusted people that you can be vulnerable and share that.
Yeah. I'm really sorry to hear that you had to go through a lot of difficult situations, but I'm really proud of you for pulling yourself out of that and still consciously putting that effort into yourself as much as you also do your professional life. I think that's huge because you could have easily given up. It's okay if people do, but imagine if you didn't. And I think at least attempting to get back out there again is the best thing that you could do rather than holding back and then being stuck with shoulda, coulda, wouldas. I went through a little bit of a phase like that. And now I'm at a point where I'm just like, man, I wasted my time
Mm.
being stuck. But that has really like just launched me forward and really been giving me the energy that I need and that boost of, okay, time is precious. Let's not waste it. Let's do what we can when we can. But yeah, it just sounds like you were able to separate the two, which can be very difficult. I really admire you for that because we all handle things differently, but it's just very admirable. And I don't like when people use those things as an excuse to mistreat people or to be unprofessional. And I think that's a really great lesson to other women, to other people, and even to your kids of, okay, yeah, you might be going through this difficult time, but you can still show up. You can still be positive. You can do your best. You can try. And then once you get at home, okay, yeah, work on yourself, take care of
Yeah.
yourself. So I appreciate how much you balance that, especially like navigating that through a divorce and your professional line. That's a lot. But like you said, you mentioned that you remind yourself that you don't want to be in that place. So you're like very aware of that energy and how maybe it brought you down. And now I think you're showing up as your best self and you're still working on yourself. So, what would you say some of your goals are for this year as you're continuing your journey with your personal and professional development?
This year, I'm going to be unfiltered and the most authentic version of myself. When I was married for 12 years, I wasn't really allowed to have a voice. I was supposed to be like a quiet little Southern wife. Well, I'm from DC for starters. I'm not Southern in the first place. And my mom's culture that she comes from, the culture I was raised in, the Dutch culture, we're known for having no filter. So I just, it's not me. It's never been me. And I had to, for so many years, like hear over and over every day, give less of your opinion. It will affect our business. Give less of this. A client could get mad. Don't ruffle this. Don't ruffle that. And I had so many people come to work with us because I was authentic, because I was sharing my opinion. And it started to really make me hate myself that, okay, I'm not that type of girl. It's not who I am. And so it took a long time for me to realize, to relearn to love myself. That was really important for me, and for me to know that my voice is good. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm not wired incorrectly. It's just the way I am. And there's nothing shameful about that. So this year, I'm going to be so true to myself. So I'm writing a book. I'm in the process of filming a TV show. I'm going to do all the things that I really want to do that I wasn't allowed to do, that I had to be quiet about. And I want to share my opinions. And I think more people who have had to be very quiet and had to have no voice, I think it's important that they learn to find that. I also am selling a company, starting a couple new ones. So I'm doing things like that and traveling a ton. I'm going to cross something off my bucket list this year. I'm going to disappear from social media this summer for a whole month and not look at it once that company has sold. So I have a shit ton of professional goals and things I'm working on. But aside from the jobs, aside from the careers and the money and the goals and all that stuff is so good, I just really want to be true to myself. And I want to be surrounded by people who know my value and don't make me second guess it.
Wow, that's beautiful. And I'm just so excited. You've got so many things going on and I'm I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to read them. But I'm really glad that you're honing in on that power. I think a lot of women can resonate with that of being raised or society saying that you need to be less, you need to not like
Mhm.
you need to tone it down and
Yeah.
there's just certain personalities or certain people that have so much to give and you can't do that if you still have that little voice in your head. So I'm really glad that you're breaking free from that. I do want to ask you that while you're working on this book and TV show, are you surprised at some of the things and feelings and thoughts that are coming up for you while you're in that creative process?
Yeah, I sit on the plane a lot of times and I work on the book, and I'm not surprised. I'm really making a conscious effort to dig up the dirt in my life and be super unfiltered. Social media is it's just all filters. It's nothing is authentic anymore. But I'm very much type of person. If you go to my social media and you meet me in person, I'm true to myself. And I'm uncovering a lot of things that I suppressed and shoved really deep. And yesterday I was on the plane flying back home, and I was sitting there, and it was like an 11 p.m. flight, and it was dark, and I was sitting there and I'm listening to music, and I can tell things are coming back up for me. And I used to keep moving. Let me switch the song. Let me focus. Let me go back to social media. Let me look at something else. So I didn't have to feel it because it's a painful thing to feel. But now I very much am like, hold on a second. That's something is coming back up here. What's that evoking? What am I feeling here? Let me confront that. So now I'm just writing through it. And there's been so many times I've sat on a plane and just really been in tears and hoping that nobody here will notice me. No one will look at me. And then there's been other times where I sat on the plane in so much pain and been like, please somebody notice that I'm in pain. Please somebody see that I'm hurting. And people generally don't. People are so busy. But I want to be the type of person that I'm willing to help somebody, that I don't get so busy and so focused on my goals and ambitions that I come in contact with someone who is potentially in so much pain and I didn't even notice. I don't want to be that type of person either.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That really struck a chord with me because I definitely feel that one running from the emotion or the thought. And particularly on a plane, I was able to travel a lot more last year. And I was really working through a lot of fear and anxiety that I get with traveling. And I was at a place where I was doing it almost every month. And I'm just so grateful for that. But every time on the flight home, I there was like a slight bit of dread, like I was excited to go home, but also not wanting to
Mhm.
be at home, and,
Yes.
running from that feeling just kept me repeating that all the
Oh,
time, and I'm just like, "Why am I always crying on the plane ride home?" And you're right, sometimes when you deny your own reality, you're not able to fully process it all, but and that's why social media is fake. I had a lot of people say, "Oh, you're traveling a lot, you're having fun, you're doing this, you're doing that." And with some of them who I'm close to, I'll say, yeah, but I'm not necessarily happy. Like, I'm happy to get out of the house, but when I come home, I'm not happy. Like, why do you
yeah.
think I'm always out? So social media isn't always real, and or it's a glimmer, it's a highlight of a fun time. You don't see everything, and so that's why I always say that assumptions can be very dangerous. And there's a lot of folks that do say that they're authentic and they're really not, and so I'm glad that you're able to step forward and really be as vulnerable as you possibly can. Because, again, like I mentioned earlier, I think this is where a lot of people can learn. And whether it be in their personal lives or maybe they can learn from this situation, this discussion that we're having, and they're able to show up for their strong friends. I feel like you're a very strong, independent woman, and sometimes it is hard for you to be vulnerable, and so when you are vulnerable, your friends, close people to you, your loved ones don't know how to respond to you because they don't know what you need.
Yeah.
And so by you sharing your story with me today, I hope that people can acknowledge that, hey, check on your strong friends, check on your funny friends, check on all of your friends.
Yeah.
I read a statistic that the past couple of years, stress has been exponentially the biggest and silent killer of a lot of things. Stress
Yeah.
leads to high blood pressure, leads to stroke, and
Yeah.
we're not talking about that because people just, oh, you're fine, they diminish it. But stress is huge.
Yeah.
But when we have these vulnerable conversations and discussions, it's not for the vanity of things. It's more of like we are human beings that have this full spectrum of emotions, and we can all hide it very well and sometimes not so well. And so, how do we navigate through life and your professional aspects, and how do you navigate things in your personal endeavors? And so with you sharing with that me, I'm really glad that you did share that because it shows people that you can put on a brave face, you can be beautiful, you can be strong and capable and resilient, but let's not neglect the fact of everything underneath, all of the layers and what it took for you to even show up today at work or today at this meeting. I'm glad that you're going to start that journey and show up more. I'm sure you've already started, but I want you to be more out loud about it. So I'm
I
excited to
would
see
love
where
to.
it goes. Yeah, you deserve it. I think, like you mentioned, you said like you hindered your voice and your confidence and your opinions. And it's just such a heavy feeling.
It is, but also I think people will go on the flip side and they'll be like, and now I'm going to say everything I think. And it's
Uh,
let's be aware of our words. Let's not just spit fire. Let's be very conscious of our words. So at the same
yeah.
time, like not go full 180 and now I'm going to give you my opinion when you like so there is a happy medium.
Yes, that's huge. Yeah, I'm glad that you did mention that because balance is huge. And I know you mentioned that you had ADD growing up. I have ADHD, and so I'm a very like black or white type of person, like
Yes,
just
me too.
balls to the wall.
Yeah.
And with my healing journey and going to therapy and working on things, and especially the past like 6 years, I've really been honing in on that balance. And that's why I love having these conversations. I love learning from people, and I love being able to showcase that because I don't want this knowledge just to myself. I love talking, I love people, I love learning. And so I'm able to apply that on Resilient and Rowdy and my other podcasts. And I'm
Yeah.
glad that you shared this. I want you to keep going. And I also wanted to have a couple like last like touch points of as the woman you are, as the woman that you're developing and growing to be, personal or professional, what are some tidbits that you'd love to leave this audience, which is a majority of women? What would you like to leave them with as you're embarking this journey of stepping into your power and being bold about it? Also humble, but bold.
I think never second guess your worth and your value. And if you're talking to people personally or professionally, if you feel that your worth is not seen and you're not heard, step away from it. And I think trust your gut. God, there's been 1,000 times looking back and throughout like my marriage too, really, and in business deals when my gut was off. And I would either you need the money when you're first starting or you're in this relationship, but trust your gut. It doesn't lie when it's off. And you have to really listen to that. And then I think for me, the big thing this year has just been don't be afraid to confront those things that are scary and that hurt and not keep suppressing them, but really go. I'm make a conscious effort to go to that dark place. Don't avoid the dark place anymore. This is the year where you go to it and you face it. If you're scared of something, you do it. You do hard shit. I tell my kids that all the time. We do hard things. We don't run from hard things. We don't suppress hard things. We face them. And that's how we become better people.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. That's beautiful. I think that's so well put. And I'm glad that you're practicing what you preach and also implementing that with your kids. Is there anything else you'd like to leave the audience with, Emily?
Listen, girls, we're hot shit. Let's just stop. Let's stop putting up with bullshit this year. I tell my friends, I'm like, if you second guess yourself, put a fucking push up bra on, put some mascara on, look in the damn mirror and do the damn thing. I'm so tired and so sad for women seeing them when they second guess themselves and they put up with shit they don't have to put up with. We're not doing that anymore. It's not a cute look.
Yeah, no, girl, you are preaching to the choir. And I think that's a really important message because I can honestly say that I've held myself back from so many great things because I was sad or I was self conscious or I didn't feel like I was worthy to be in that space. And you're right. you got to do what you got to do to show up and be better because like I said before, I spent a few years just wasting away at my potential when I could have been showing up and at least trying. So I'm really glad that you shared that with us, and just I'm so grateful for this conversation, and I'm really appreciative of you. So if my audience wants to connect with you, if they want to follow you, where can they find you?
I'm all over the place.
Yes, girl.
It's Emily Loves Business. TikTok is my fun creative outlet where I embarrass myself. And then Instagram is when I do more of my business type stuff. So Emily Loves Business across the board.
Awesome, beautiful, and I will share that with the audience. So, Resilient Righty Gang, this was Emily. I hope y'all enjoyed our conversation. If you'll want to hear more about her, definitely tune in and follow her on all social media platforms. Thank you so much, Emily. It was such an honor to talk to you today.
Thank you for having me and trusting me with your audience. I don't take
Yeah,
that lightly.
yeah, absolutely.